Today in our School Matters series, a report out this week shows American students are lagging behind teenagers all around the world in critical subjects. Every 3 years, 15-year-olds in nearly 80 countries take an international student assessment. It tests math, reading, and science, the biggies. American teenagers scored worse than students in countries like China, Canada, Finland, and Poland in all 3 of those subjects. And they ranked below average in math. CBS News contributor and psychologist Lisa Damour is here. Lisa, good morning.
Morning.
This is a troubling report. Not only are American students doing poorly relative to their peers overseas, but the gap between the high-end students and the low-end students seems to be widening.
Yes, we see both things. We see that we have been utterly flat over the last 2 decades in terms of achievement for our students. And yes, as you describe, the kids who are performing really well are continuing to perform well, and the kids who are performing at the low end are actually getting lower. They're losing ground.
And those ones at the low end are the ones that, in theory, should be helped and held up by public education, right?
They should. And what this report tells us is that really what we're doing isn't working, that we've poured billions of dollars into reforms in recent years. Yeah. We're not seeing it move the needle. The report also shows us what countries that are having more success are doing. And they're doing things like having longer school days, longer school years. In some of the countries ahead of us, they pay the teachers a huge amount. Yep. Teaching is a highly respected profession in those countries. They draw people with tremendous amounts of education into the field as a function of that. Yep. So we can see what's happening.
I can tell you with a teacher for a wife, that's a huge issue. Here's the thing that raised the biggest alarm for me. A fifth of American 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds are not reaching basic reading levels.
Basic reading levels.
That's very scary.
It is concerning. It's concerning as the workplace moves increasingly towards people needing to be able to communicate very effectively, read and comprehend very effectively. On this one, there are things parents can do. We see research showing that when parents read to toddlers, it actually bumps reading scores at age 15. The other thing we see is that when parents themselves read for their own pleasure, when they just read on their own time, it actually bumps kids' engagement and performance in reading.
So what is the level, how much involvement should parents have on their kids when it comes to their schooling? Because I think a lot of parents look at the schools, the homework, and say, I can't do that. I can't help you.
Or they try it and then it's a fight, and that's ugly.
Doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Well,
How
it's
important
interesting.
is their involvement?
Well, not all involvement is equal. So what we do see is we want parent involvement, but parent involvement in the countries that are ahead of us actually does tend to look like academic coaching. More time spent working with your child on homework, supporting homework. Parent involvement in the U.S. is often measured in terms of things like involvement in sports, showing up at school meetings. These matter, but they don't necessarily change test scores.
Right. Is there any good news in this report?
That's my question.
There is a bright spot in this report. What we saw in the U.S. is that children who had immigrated to the U.S. were performing at the same level in reading as children who had not immigrated to the U.S., as non-immigrant children. And this gap is actually bigger in other countries than it is in the U.S., and this is true even for immigrant children who are impoverished. So this piece does speak to the good work being done in American schools and by American teachers, and that's something we can take pride in.
All right.
Very good.
We have a lot of work to do. Lisa Damour, thank you.
You're